district, there are 5 neighborhood associations, and I try to stay in touch with all of them. Very often, an issue that a neighborhood is facing will have both municipal as well as provincial connections in terms of jurisdiction. One example I can use is the one that Bill Kelly talked about, and that was the development on Signal Hill. And even though the whole thing around the approval for development was municipal, there was a potential provincial issue around culture and tourism and historic sites. So I, talked with the Minister of Tourism and Culture to see what angle we might be able to take provincially. So I'm interested as the MHA for this area in knowing what approach you would take in working with the MHA when there are provincial municipal interconnections on an issue.
Nice.
Thank you, Ms. Michael, for that question. And I'll just go back to explaining that although I served in capacities working for ministers in the government, I realize the importance of consulting with all levels of government. I think it's very, very important. And since this election has moved forward, we've never met before, and we've met quite a number of times throughout the campaign, likewise with other counterparts within your party in various areas of Ward 2. I think it first starts with relationship building. I think we need to identify role, responsibility, and how we're going to work together. Not that you're going to pass the buck to somebody else. If somebody has a housing issue, many times I forward them to Jerry Rogers' office, but I'll always give her a heads up to say, look, I forwarded somebody to your office, I'm willing to assist whatever I can, but you start building relationships, and I think that there is an element of responsibility for all elected officials to work together, whether or not we all agree on the same party platforms or not. At the end of the day, we're working for the best interests of the residents. And I think that we need to break any barriers that exist. And I think that I'd very much be willing to work with you and all other parties and outline what my role is, what my responsibility is, and what my vision is for the next 4 years. And I think I've started that. I've built a series of relationships within various levels of government, and I think that I'd be very much willing to work very closely and to ensure that before decisions are made, the consultation process begins with provincial and federal counterparts.
I've also had some experience dealing with various levels of government. The St. Mary's School Council, for example, was part of the initial action group that lobbied government for the West End High School, and that was an incredible learning experience to meet with the various stakeholders, the Eastern School District and provincial government, and it's so important as a city moving forward. We don't operate in a vacuum. Obviously, we're the capital city of the province, and so many of the decisions that we make as a city affect the province as a whole. And when I look at, for example, development in your district, in Kitty, to me that's a precious jewel that we have to be so careful with, because not only is it so important to the city itself, but people come from all over to see it, and it's part of why people want to come here. So we have to have that constant open dialogue between the city and the province, because there are so many aspects to running the city that the province needs to be a part of. One of the things that I've been advocating for is an increased police presence. And obviously that's a provincial jurisdiction, but one of the things that I would love to get in City Hall and have a chance to advocate for is foot patrols in the neighborhoods of downtown. I think that's something that could make a tremendous difference as far as increasing the rapport between police and the neighbors. So yeah, I completely agree. It's a vital piece of being a city councilor, to have that open communication with various levels of government. The harbor fence is another example that the federal government should have been more closely consulted with when that whole process was going on. And I think that was an opportunity lost there.
Yeah, I would definitely be all over communicating with that level of government. I think that there's a lot of areas that there's overlap, and sometimes between two, sometimes all three levels of government. For housing, I've worked in affordable housing for a number of years now, and that is definitely in the realm of all three levels of government. And that's actually one of the things that I think the city is doing a really, really good job at right now, is that it's kind of taking a leadership role. We have the Mayor's Advisory Committee on Affordable Housing, where we have reps from provincial and federal government. It's great. Everyone's at the table, everyone's talking. And so I think we need to find other ways to do that for other issues, like public transportation or infrastructure or tourism. Even the city has a role in tourism as well. And so I think that, and the other example I guess I can think of right off the top of my head is the schools. We have a number of huge vacant schools in Ward 2 that, and I've been down at council meetings where they sent letters, and they just don't get a response from the government sometimes. So when we have a huge empty hole, we don't know what's going to happen there. That's a very difficult thing from a planning perspective. And so I think that they need to start talking to us, and I think that we need to talk to members from all parties, obviously, who are able to bring these issues forward, especially where there's kind of some immediacy. And I think the other example I can think of is the Northeast Avalon regional plan. When I lost the last election last time, I started to go to meetings right away. One of the first things I realized was that we had a municipal plan, which already should have been reviewed 2 years ago or a year and a half ago at that point. And they put it off and they put it off because they said, oh, we're waiting on the province to complete the Northeast Avalon regional plan. And there was they hadn't met in years. And so as far as I know, the plan's still not complete. So I think that from a planning perspective, if the province really wants to do something, they should finish that plan. And that will help guide development and hopefully cooperation on the Northeast Avalon.